7 o'clock. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. We're so happy to have you. We're so excited to have this guy here. But I know you're here to hear him talk. I'll keep it short. So today's format, we are starting you off here in the Moana room. Then after the talk at about 7:30, we're going to move you to the planetarium show to see the wonderful show that he directed. And then after that will be Q&A. So keep your questions to yourself until after the show. Thank you very much. Okay. And then I'll quickly introduce him. This wonderful man is such a talented guy, so humble, so creative. His name is Arne Wong, and his lovely wife, Dania. They are partners in crime in that they do good crimes in producing shows. His list of accomplishments is just on and on, but I'll just highlight a few. Includes TV and feature film, such as Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, X-Men, and his notable animation accomplishments include Tron, Heavy Metal, Dora the Explorer, Cat Dog, and many others. So how many of you find any of the names familiar? Oh yeah. Awesome, we have him here on this island. Oh my God, okay. So, and then he has moved from San Francisco. He was born in San Francisco, Chinatown. And he's moved here a few years ago. He and his wife live in Kona. And he reached out to us, because we've been playing the Maya Skies since 2011. And how many of you have seen the Maya Skies? Oh, good. So, for those of you who are watching it the first time, you can come again to watch it. And anyway, Gene An is volunteering his time to teach animation and art at local art centers and public schools. So, join me in giving him and Dania a warm, human welcome. So excited, I forgot a few things, sorry. Can you silence your phone? And then in the planetarium, no pictures and no videos, please. Thank you very much.
I don't know how to turn it on. Huh? I didn't touch it. Is it on?
Okay.
Like now? How? Like this?
Well, thank you for coming here tonight, and special thanks to Ka'u Kimura and New York and the team here at Imiloa Planetarium for the showing of Tales of the Maya Skies, which I worked on. This film took about over 250 people to make, and it took a little over 2.5 years. It's in 3D digital animation, and some of the technology that we developed for the film is now used in archaeology and has made some dramatic achievements in the area of finding more Mayan pyramids in Yucatan. In fact, recently, over 60,000 new pyramids have been found using aerial scanning, using laser scanning through planes in the air. We didn't do it that way. We actually, before that, we just had laser scans on the ground. And what we did was we took long-range laser scans of the city of Chichen Itza. How many know where Chichen Itza is? Oh, wow. Okay, have you all been there too? Yeah. Well, you're going to see Chichen Itza as it was in 900 AD, or what they call the classic period. What we did, we scanned the ruins and what was left of the city of Chichen Itza, both long range and short range. Short range, but they still were able to create amazing calculations. They created their own numbering system. And one amazing thing they did do, which still amazes me, is that they created the concept of zero. In the middle of the jungle, thousands of miles away from any other civilization, they were able to calculate into the millions using a numeral system that is made up of dots and lines. Oh, and I think I have a picture for that. Hold on a second. There it is. The dots and lines, this is a 20 count, and these are symbols of their numbers from 1 to 20. And you can see the dot is 1. And you can see it going around in a circle. And from that 20 count and that symbol in the center, the design in the center is a 0. It looks like a seashell. And that idea of 0 made all the difference in the world, because now you can have a value system in the numbers. This is the what they call a glyph. The symbol in the center is the symbol of the sun, and it's based on a flower. And the flower, they consider the flower as the sun. And this is also from the film. We recreated the glyph system and also did some designs around it to show you what that meant. This is part of the mythology of the story of the creation of the moon and the sun. The moon and the sun are the brothers, and the father, right in the middle there, had been trapped in the lower world, or they call the Shibala, which is the underworld. And in their mythology, they believe there's a heaven, earth, and then the underworld. You'll see this part of in the film, you'll see the story of how the sun and the moon saved the father. So, from here, now I'm going to show you some of the images of Chichen Itza as it is today. See how that works. I know it works. Okay, here we go. There. This is the temple of Kukulkan, or Estella, and this is one of the few remaining intact pyramids in Yucatan. And it's one of the, it was an amazing thing is that this building, or the structure, is a physical representation of the solar calendar. The steps, all of these steps add up to 365 steps. And the location and how it's built is north, east, and southwest. The cumulative, everything that's built around this has to do with the solar calendar. Now, just recently, they discovered that there are hidden temples inside this pyramid. And actually, there's 3 new temples have been discovered inside this pyramid. And let's see if I can get to the next one. As you can see there, that's one of the temples inside the main structure of the pyramid. This outside shows the excavation and how they found that there's another layer underneath the temple. And this is when they excavated it out, they found that there was another layer, and also they were able to go in and find that chamber. This is the Temple of the Warriors, which we reconstructed, and right there is that little statue you saw in the title sequence. And inside there is the temple where the king sits, and he looks out through there, the sun shines and sets right on that little statue once a year at the solstice. This is the ball court, and the ball court, you can see this long thing here. There's one on each side, and the king, I think the king sits right there, and they have the ball game. The Mayans also invented and created a rubber ball. They actually were able to make the ball, and it was about this big, and they had to throw the ball into a hoop, a metal hoop over there. Not metal, a stone hoop. And it was the losers of the game were sacrificed, and it was considered an honor. Yeah, and it was a serious game. And another thing about this ball court is that you could stand on the other end. You can stand on the other end of the ball court, and you can just talk normally. And if you're sitting at the throne, you can hear all the way across the field the voice of the person. They have the sound acoustics in here. It's totally amazing how they can do that. They figured that out. I don't know how. This is the Caracol. This is the observatory. And this building and the whole grounds is facing exactly a certain degree north that allows you to see all the right angles of the Venus rotation in the sky through the slits. Of course, you can't really see much of the slit. There's one slit there. When you see it in the film, you'll see the whole thing reconstructed. There's a little closer view. Now this is the cave of Balancanchi. And this cave is near Chichen Itza. It's about maybe 10 miles away. And you have to go down in an incline for about 20 minutes. And it gets hotter and hotter as you get down into that huge cave. These are pots. These here are stone pots. And apparently the Mayans did ceremony down here. And the Europeans never found it. You know, Cortez and all the different people, even the Aztecs didn't even know about this. This was a secret cave. And the Mayans used this to keep their sacred records and all their treasures. Things of value were hidden in this cave, and they were able to stay here during many of during the times later on when, like the Spaniards and others that came through. Here's another angle of that. Now we scanned that entire cave from one end to the other, so when you see the cave in the film, it is accurate to the like 1/16 of an inch. This is the cenote, which there are many cenotes in Yucatan. They are water reservoirs. When the rain comes, it fills up, and when and then during the winter, it sinks back down. Well, apparently, just recently, they discovered that there are over 200 miles of underground caverns that have prehistoric skeletons that are in the sediment and below in these caverns. And they found that the entrance to this 200-mile these caverns comes from this cenote. And in the film, we have the serpent of Kukulkan come down from the pyramid and go into this particular cenote. You actually see it in the film. When the winter comes and the water drops down, you can actually get into the caves, and that's how they found this passage that led almost like a snake throughout the Yucatan. So here is a picture of Chichen Itza from the air. So you can kind of get an idea that here's the temple of Kukulkan. That over there is the cenote right there, I think. And this is the ball court. And that is the Temple of Warriors. This area here, all the brown area here, was once a limestone plaza. And the king could stand at the very top of the temple here, and he could speak in a normal tone of voice, and anybody in the plaza could hear him. The acoustics was designed for his voice to be able to project itself all the way across. This is huge. I mean, this is, I don't know, this is like maybe 2-3 football fields large, that he could hold, I think up to 5,000 people on the ground. Every 52 years, they had to redo the plaza. It was part of a ceremony, and it also was, again, to help the king to be able to speak, and also to make the plaza all clean, and all this was all limestone. Now, by making limestone, you had to boil down the powder. And to boil down the powder, you need to have water, and you need to have fire. And in order to have fire, you had to have wood. In order to have wood, they had to cut down their forest every 52 years until there was no forest left. And then the erosion started coming in, and then a drought happened. This was around 900 AD. The drought lasted for, they say, somewhere between 10 to 20 years, which caused the people to just no longer want to stay in the cities, because the king's job was to bring water and to keep the area flourishing. With the slash and burn technique of the cornfields, which also then ruined the fields for generations, the people of the Maya actually left the cities, went back into the forest, all 7 million of them. So they didn't die, they just left the cities. All the cities in the Yucatan were left because of this drought, and also because they started fighting amongst themselves for whatever food sources were left. So here's where we begin the project, and this is one of the scans that we took. Let's see if I can get that to. There we go. This is a scan of the temple, and as you can see, that it's pretty accurate. We use this scan to then. Well, first of all, to put everything back together, and then from there, then I had to come up with the storyline and figure out, how to bring the camera in and weave this whole story about the Maya and all of these structures in there. Here's where we begin to see the see-through, where you can see through the pyramid there. And this is the last one, which is not very clear. But you can start to see how we were building from the inside out. So let's see. Oh, here we go. So this one. Okay. I'm not sure how to make that bigger. Green dot, this one?
Yeah.
At the top left.
Oh,
Top left.
No, I mean to make it full screen?
Yeah.
Really, this one?
Oh, yeah.
Here I am, filmmaker. Okay, so this is we hired a company called SciArt. And what they do is they scan things. I mean, they scan entire buildings, and they scan I think they Mount Rushmore. They scan all these things that could possibly be destroyed or be ruined. And for prosperity, they literally scan them all down. They worked on this project, and they scanned the city of Chichen Itza. And this is some of the stuff that we use to make the film. So after the scan, we can rotate it in the computer, and we can actually zoom and move, like go all the way up into the top temple, and we can actually go inside. Everything that we scan, we can actually rotate and move around. And so with that, I had a lot of leeway to move all the building, move the camera anywhere I wanted. This was another. These were different structures in the city of Chichen Itza. And you can see how after the scanning, we can then rotate and we can put back pieces that were laying on the ground. Some of this stuff here was, we could tell from the pillars are on the ground, we could actually piece together the whole structure. After scanning the buildings, we also had then to color them. And that was a big deal too, was to have to figure out what were the colors and to do it accurately. They use a lot of cinnabar, which was a red dye, a red paint, and they did a lot of buildings in brilliant cinnabar, orange, green. Here's the Temple of Warriors. I remember when we were colorizing it, the Chabot came in and they said, "This looks like a cartoon. Are you sure this is the right colors?" But it's true. They actually had these brilliant colors in the middle of the jungle. This one is the Temple of the Warriors, and this is where that statue is that I was mentioning to you. Of course, everything inside the temple is gone, and the top of the roof is gone. looking into, what was the comparison to the Mayans and the Hawaiians. And I found that there's some interesting facts that are lying between the two cultures. One is the language. The Mayan language was suppressed by when Cortez came and the whole Spanish Inquisition and how they took over and they sort of took the language and basically eliminated it from the culture. And it wasn't only until like the 70s when they were able to break the code to read the pyramid hieroglyphics, the language started to come back, and they were brought back through immersion schools, which is very similar to what's happening now in Hawaii. I teach at the Ihonui Immersion School in Kona, and it's similar story of the language being suppressed over a period of time, and then the culture brought it back into the public schools, and now kids are learning to read and write and speak in Hawaiian, which is the same thing happened in the Mayan culture. The other thing that is very similar is the mythology, astrology, and astronomy is woven together rather than separated through their time and through the evolution. Hawaiian mythology, astrology, and astronomy also has an integration to it. Same with the Mayans. There's another thing that I found very interesting too is that both cultures had this prophecy of a golden-haired god that was going to come, and Captain Cook showed up, and the Hawaiians thought he was the god, and Cortez showed up, and they thought he was the god. Well, we know in history that they weren't the gods, and the people had gone through a whole long period of misunderstanding what was happening, and only in those two cultures this happens. It's very interesting. The last thing that I found, the combination or the comparison to Hawaiians, and not really the comparison, but the Mayans actually cultivated and developed pineapple, which of course, Dole came here to Hawaii and became synonymous with Hawaii. So anyway, is this time now? So we're now going to move ourselves over to the real planetarium and see the show. So thank you for.
Those of you who are going there, just be mindful of the crowd. We have a group of very energetic students from De Silva, so they're coming up from the pageant show. Thank you.
I have to get professional right in, but do you need